Which other book is there that's even making that claim, that is God himself speaking to you? There's no other book that makes that claim. Yes, there are other books that are said to be the word of God, inspired by God. Like if God wanted to communicate with you, this is what he wanted to communicate to you, yes? But the Quran is the book where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing the speaking. It's a different approach altogether. So he says, فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِمَوَاقِعِ النُّجُومِ, I swear by the places of the stars. When you look at the sky in the night, you see the stars. Now maybe back in the day, people had less of an understanding of what these stars are. It might seem laughable to us to think maybe back in the day they thought they're just little specks of light and so on and so forth. Today, we know of course it's a whole world out there. Yes, we know it's a completely different situation. This is why the Quran says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking himself, فَلَا أُقْسِمُ, I swear. Not us, I swear. This is God directly speaking to you and I. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِمَوَاقِعِ النُّجُومِ, I swear by the places of the stars, وَإِنَّهُ لَقَسَمٌ لَوْ تَعْلَمُونَ عَظِيمٌ. And if you knew what I'm swearing by, you would have known that I'm swearing by something amazing. Yes? Sometimes you might be speaking to your child, you might swear by something, but the child doesn't know the full importance of what you're swearing by. Because his child doesn't understand. So I swear by this. Your child doesn't understand the importance of what you're swearing by. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing to the human being. He says, فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِمَوَاقِعِ النَّجُومِ, I swear by the places of the stars. But you don't understand how great this swearing of mine is. Why? Because your understanding of the stars and in the sky is rudimentary. It's basic. Maybe back in the day when people were reading these verses, they might have thought, yes, the sky is up there. It's dark. There's some holes in it. That's where light comes in through it. Yes, the understanding is very rudimentary. It's very basic. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this swearing that I'm doing is a very big deal. وَإِنَّهُ لَقَسَمٌ لَوْ تَعْلَمُونَ عَظِيمٌ. Okay, so why is he swearing by the places of the stars? 100,000 million stars. Or 100 billion stars, you can say. Yes? This is the ones that are estimations. We don't know what else is out there. Why is he swearing by this? Because he wants to answer that question of yours that, well, I see this phenomena, but if only there was a sign. This is your sign. This is about to tell you what your sign is. It says, I swear by the places of the stars, إِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنٌ كَرِيمٌ. This Quran that you have in front of you is an honorable Quran. Kareem means something that is honorable. That honor comes because it is giving, it is forgiving, it is generous. A person who is very generous, they say he is Kareem. Yes? Innahu laqur'anun kareem. This book that you have in front of you, it is very honorable. Where does this book reside? He says, this book that you have in front of you, when you pick up the Quran and you have the Mus'haf in front of you, yes? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, technically that's not the Quran. That represents the Quran. You read that to hopefully connect with the Quran. But the Quran says, that's not me actually. إِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنٌ كَرِيمٌ فِي كِتَابٍ مَكْنُونٍ. It is in a hidden book. It is in a preserved book. It does not reside here. These Qur'ans that you and I pick up, these represent a reality. It's not the reality itself. It's like, for example, if you had knowledge of something and you wrote about it, your knowledge is not on the paper. Those words represent the knowledge that you have, yes? They're supposed to point to the knowledge that you have. Similarly, the Quran says, listen, this Quran that you have, this is not the true Quran. This is the manifestation of that reality. Has a higher reality, Quranun Kareem, it is a lofty reality. You know where it actually resides? Fi kitabin maknoon. It resides in a preserved book. Where is this preserved book? This is al-lawh al-mahfud. This lawh, yes, this piece of writing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written in it, as far as what we understand. Everything that's ever happened, everything that will ever happen, all of the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resides in this thing referred to as al-lawh al-mahfud. So the Quran says, that sign that you're looking for, Bismillah, this book. If you're not sure if God is really out there, then why is he taking out time, 6,000 verses, to speak to you, to send you this message? If he's not really out there, then what is all of this from? Where did all this come from? Who's talking to you now? Who's swearing in order to get your attention? This is me. It's the Lord of the worlds. Yes, you might have doubts when you look at the basic phenomena of this world. That's why what we did is we sent down a book speaking directly to you so that you would have no doubts about this anymore. Now, where do these doubts come from? A part of it is because you don't spend time with this book. We wrote you this letter. You don't spend time with this letter. So then you go about life and you say, well, I don't know. Is it really out there? Like, is the day of judgment really a real thing? I don't know. That's because you're not spending time with our signs. We sent you a Quran and you don't spend time with it. So how am I supposed to communicate with you? You send someone a text message, right? And I shouldn't use this example because I get text messages all the time and I don't open them up, yes, unfortunately, because the schedule is busy, right? So I probably shouldn't use this example. But it's like sending someone a text message, explaining to them everything about an event. And then they see you later, they're like, why didn't you tell me? Like, Baba, I told you. I sent you the text message. You didn't open up the text message. You didn't take a look to read. Otherwise, I've been communicating with you. Quran says, you have doubts? Innahu la Quranun Kareem. This honorable Quran that we sent down to you. This is your sign, but you don't want to communicate with it. You don't want to interact with it. That's not on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Innahu la Quranun Kareem. Fi kitabin maknoon. So the Quran says its reality lies in al-lawh al-mahfud. What you and I have in our hands is a representation. It's a manifestation of that reality. This is why the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, what do we read? Alif Lam Mim. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. Yes? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts out, He says, ذَلِكَ. ذَلِكَ is to point to something that's far away. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. That book, there's no doubt in it. What do you mean that book? I'm reading the book. It should be هَذَا الْكِتَابُ. This book, there is no doubt in it. Yes? But the Quran says what? That book. Why? Because the reality of the Quran doesn't reside here. The reality of the Quran resides where? في كتاب مكنون. In the preserved lawh, in the preserved book. So then what is this that we have? This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down for us. He brought down a version of that so that you and I could benefit from that. So He says, this ultimate version of the Quran, yes? لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. No one has access to it. No one does mess of it. No one comes into contact with it. إلا المطهرون. Except those who are purified. Well, who are those who are purified? This is one of the reasons why you and I, when it comes to people who want to follow the message of the prophets, we say we have to listen to the Ahlul Bayt. We have to see what they say. Yes, the Prophet had other companions, but respectfully, the other companions don't speak on behalf of the Prophet because they didn't have this knowledge. So the Quran says, this Quranun Kareem fi kitabin maknoon, who has access to it? La yamassuhu illa al-mutahharun. No one has access to it except the purified ones. Why ask you who are the purified ones? Well, the Quran says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. No one has access to this Quran except the mutahharun. So you go to other verses of the Quran. So who are these mutahharun? Who are these purified individuals? The Quran says the Ahl Bayt are the purified individuals. They are the ones who have this knowledge. And this opens a big theological discussion about who is supposed to speak on behalf of the Prophet. Because the one thing that the Shia school of thought, all of them held in common when it came to the Ahlul Bayt, was that the knowledge that they have is some special type of knowledge. It's not like the knowledge of the Abu Hanifas of the world and the Ahmad ibn Hanbals of the world and the Shafi'is of the, they had knowledge too. They were knowledgeable too. But this Ahlul Bayt, their knowledge came from somewhere else. Where did it come from? Different opinions you find in our school of thought. And this opens a whole discussion. In our narrations, sometimes the narrations say that this knowledge was passed down directly from the Prophet to them. Sometimes the narrations say that angels speak to them. Not angels speak to them in the sense of revelation like the Quran. No. That's separate. That's only for the Prophet, yes? Angels speak to them of knowledge of the religion. Sometimes the narrations say they had certain books that they used to look within, and there lied the answers to many things. Sometimes the narrations say they were taught fundamental principles from which they could derive all of the other rulings. This is an area where a lot of our scholars have a lot of disputes as to where exactly does the knowledge of the Ahlul Bayt come from. Discussion for another time. What they all agreed on, this Ahlul Bayt, their knowledge, comes from somewhere else. Because if you want to say they used to learn the way everyone else was learning, where are their teachers? Where are their schools? Where is he getting up 8 o'clock in the morning going to school every day? And you know where it shows itself more than anywhere else? It shows itself more than anywhere else with the imamah of our beloved 9th Imam, Al-Imam Al-Jawad, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Because everybody else, you can point to them and say, oh, he learned it from this person. Why? Because they were adults. You say when they were children, they were learning this, that, and then all of a sudden. But when it comes to the 9th Imam, when it comes to someone who's an Imam at the age of 9 or 10, what knowledge are you talking about? What schooling are you talking about? Yes? This shows there's something different with this family. Now, the reason why I'm putting it in these terms is because we're, boiling it down to the very basics. At the very basics of it, the Shia school of thought has always carried this flag, that this family's knowledge comes from somewhere else. It's different. So the Quran says, "La yamassuhu illa al-mutahharun." No one has access to that level of the Quran except for those who are purified. Well, who are those who are purified? If anything, the Ahlul Bayt are definitely part of that group. If you want to throw in anybody else, go ahead. But at the very least, they are definitely part of that group. "La yamassuhu illa al-mutahharun." No one has access to that Quran except the mutahharun. When I say that Quran, I mean the reality of it, not that it's different from the words that we read. These words represent that reality. Then he says, verse 80, Tanzilum min Rabbil Alameen. This Quran, we have lowered it down towards you. When someone gives you something, yes, either they bring it to you and it remains connected to them like a rope, or they throw something at you, it's disconnected from them. When someone throws something at you, you get it. It's disconnected from you. You're not in touch with that thing anymore. Yes? The Quran says tanzil. Tanzil means what? Means lowering something, bringing something down. Think of it like a rope. That humanity is at the bottom of this well. It is lost. It's looking for signs. It's looking for clear guidance. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we lowered this Quran, tanzil, we brought it down for you, but it is connected to us. It's not something we throw to you and it's disconnected from us. Meaning, you're supposed to hold on to it and make your way out of this well of darkness. You're supposed to hold on to this Quran and make your way out of the darkness of the world that we live in. Look at the world today. It's a dark world. It's a world full of confusion. It's a world full of vagueness. You don't even know what to do. Except the Quran has come to become that framework for you and I. So I will wrap up with these verses. Verse 81 says, this tanzil that we did, this Quran that we lowered it down so you could hold on to it. It's like hablullah. It's like the rope of Allah. The Quran says, أَفَبِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَنْتُمْ مُدْهِنُونَ وَتَجْعَلُونَ رِزْقَكُمْ أَنَّكُمْ تُكَذِّبُونَ. This blessing that we gave to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to the kuffar, says, why have you made the benefit that you're getting out of the Quran, the one thing you're getting out of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the kuffar, the only thing they get out of the Quran is that they make fun of it. They mock it. Yani, out of all the benefit that they could have taken from the Quran, the only thing they walk away from it is what? They're laughing at it. They're mocking it. They're rejecting it. Yes? That's what the Quran says. And there's of course a dichotomy here, which is why the Quran is putting it this way. وَتَجْعَلُونَ رِزْقَكُمْ. The one thing you walk away with from this means of blessing that could have blessed your life in so many different ways, the one thing you decided to walk away with was what? Was to reject it and to mock it. And by extension, this is my part I'm adding now. There are those, they made their rizq from the Quran, what they walked away with from the Quran, rejecting it and mocking it. Yes? And you know what we did? What we did when it came to the Quran was not rejecting it, but was ignoring it. and disregarding it and not giving it the importance that it has. And, just putting it there on the shelf. Yes, so we let it collect dust and so on and so forth. So there were those who rejected the Quran, and that is what they did with the Quran. And then there is you and I. What did we do with the Quran? We didn't reject it. Na'udhu billah, God forbid. What do? We disregarded it. We ignored it. We just let it sit there. We never gave it the time of day. We never even took the time to even try to understand what this message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to us, what it's trying to tell us. And then we sit there, yes, youth sometimes adults. We sit there and say, if only there was a sign that was clearly telling me that God is out there and He's communicating with me. But He sent you that sign. And you and I don't take the time to open it, yes? That's why the Quran says that this is إِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنٌ كَرِيمٌ. This is a very giving, forgiving Quran. Meaning what? Meaning it's generous. Meaning when you engage with it, it gives you a lot. You walk away with a lot. In the midst of all of this that we could have walked away with from the Quran, what did we end up doing? You and I, we ended up disregarding it and setting it there. And of course, worse are those who rejected the Quran. Inshallah, with this we'll continue in the following weeks. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. استغفر الله ربي. اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. أثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا. ثم أصلي وأسلم على نجيبه وجليله وحافظ سره الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم صل وسلم على علي أمير المؤمنين وفاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين وعلى سبطي نبي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة وعلى علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في أرضك صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات. عباد الله أوصيكم بنفسي بالتقوى الله. We begin this second Friday khutbah by reminding all of you and myself to maintain the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to take some time in the second khutbah to have some more reflections on the story of Musa and Fir'aun, because we find it truly relevant to the events that are taking place in Palestine. And unfortunately, this onslaught continues, and it is truly painful to watch. I was speaking to a relative not too long ago, and I told them, I said, these events that we find happening in front of us, the reality is maybe half of the verses of the Quran, a third of the verses of the Quran have now come to life for us. Because before, and I say this because I do this for a living, I used to go through the verses of the Quran, and you would read about tyrants, and you would, speak of them as something of the past. And you say, yes, there was once a Pharaoh, and he thought he could do whatever he wanted on earth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala got rid of him, yes? And so many verses of the Quran you read in the Quran of people who came, who thought nobody could stop them in any way, and you say, well, nobody believes this anymore. Nobody lives their life anymore like this. Nobody thinks that they really can do whatever they like. And then these events happen and you realize, no, there are people who actually look like this. There are people who actually live like this. There are people who actually, approach life with this mindset. So many of the verses of the Quran come to life for us now. And of those verses, you find the verses regarding the magicians of Fir'aun, this story that we have heard of before. Who are the magicians of Fir'aun? The magicians of Fir'aun were those who used to spread propaganda for the Pharaoh. Every tyrant does his work because there is some level of support from the people immediately around him. those people who were immediately around the Pharaoh are referred to in the Quran as Mala'. Mala' are those people. Mala' means to fill up something. They are the ones who encircled the Pharaoh. They were the ones who gathered around the Pharaoh, right? You can replace that with the politicians that you have nowadays. That when one of them is acting like a tyrant, the rest of them, they come together. They gather around this person. But the people that the Pharaoh used to utilize for his propaganda were these magicians. So anyone who used to come forward and wanted to bring forward a miracle, before this person could bring forward a miracle, guess who was busy doing the work? The magicians would get to work. The magicians would start the propaganda. What was that propaganda? Well, no. Whatever he tries to say, we have an argument against it. Whatever he says, we can do better. We can say better. We can perform better. This is what the magicians of the Fir'aun used to do. Except what Fir'aun didn't see coming was that one day even these magicians would turn against him. One day even these individuals who spread his propaganda, some of them even would start to see the reality of the matter. There are many, many parallels between this story and what is taking place right now. So the Quran says, when Musa came to Fir'aun, فَأَلْقَى عَصَاهُ فَإِذَا هِيَ ثُعْبَانٌ مُبِينٌ. He threw his staff and his staff turned into the snake. وَنَزَعَ يَدَهُ. He removed his hand from his clothing. فَإِذَا هِيَ بَيْضَاءُ لِلنَّاظِرِينَ. It was shining with light. Okay, now take a look at the immediate response of the Pharaoh. And you tell me if this is not what we're actually seeing right now. The moment Musa, this is not even the showdown with the magicians yet. This is before the showdown with the magicians. He's just showing this to who? To Fir'aun and his immediate circle. The moment he presented his miracles, what did they say? قَالَ لِلْمَلَإِ حَوْلَهُ. Fir'aun turned to his other people around him. He said, إِنَّ هَذَا لَسَاحِرٌ عَلِيمٌ. Oh, we have an amazing magician here. He knew it was the truth. But before Musa could come and spread his arguments and his truth, he was already labeled as, oh, propaganda. Before he could make his arguments, he was already labeled with, he's going to come try to trick you. He's going to come and try to twist the reality of things. But I barely made my arguments yet. No, labeled. The reason why you're making these arguments is because you hate this group of people. Before Musa could even talk to the masses, what did they do? They labeled him. إِنَّ هَذَا لَسَاحِرٌ عَلِيمٌ. Oh, we have a magician in this path. He really knows how to do stuff. If you listen to him, he might actually change your view. إِنَّ هَذَا لَسَاحِرٌ عَلِيمٌ. Then what did Fir'aun say? This is the message that Fir'aun wanted to disseminate. That's why he's telling his inner circle. Because the inner circle also already knows the reality of things. When he tells his inner circle, he means this is what we have to tell the people. What else did he say? يُرِيدُ أَن يُخْرِجَكُم مِّنْ أَرْضِكُم بِالسِّحْرِ. You see the magic he has? He wants to kick you out of this land. What does that mean? That means I'm the victim. I'm the one who is the victim. You see this Musa? First of all, he has this magic. It's very powerful. Secondly, he wants to get rid of all of you. He's a threat to everybody. This doesn't ring a bell? Rings a bell, yes? Oh, if you let this Musa, oh my gosh, none of you will ever live. But wait, you're the one who's perpetrating this oppression, occupations. No. I'm the victim. See, he yuridu an yukhrijakum min ardikum. He wants to kick all of you out. بِسِحْرِهِ فَمَاذَا تَأْمُرُونَ. So what should we do about him? Of course, the inner circle came back. They said, أَرْجِهْ وَأَخَاهُ. Keep him for a while and his brother. وَابْعَثْ فِي الْمَدَائِنِ حَاشِرِينَ. Go send people in the different cities. يَأْتُونَ بِكُلِّ سَحَّارٍ عَلِيمٍ. We have to bring our own propaganda people. And they have to be sahar. They can't be sahir, because this guy, Musa, he knows what he's doing. So we need to go get the best. Yes, we need to get, the Ben Shapiros of the world. We need to get the best of them. Why? Because we need someone who's going to come and explain things in such a way that even though we're bombing houses every day, has to explain it in a way where we become the victim. Go grab everyone. بِكُلِّ سَحَّارٍ عَلِيمٍ. Go bring those, really strong magicians of ours. No one does magic anymore. It's called media. That's what it's called nowadays, yes? يَأْتُونَ بِكُلِّ سَحَّارٍ عَلِيمٍ. So what did they do? فَجُمِعَ السَّحَرَةُ لِمِيقَاتِ يَوْمٍ مَعْلُومٍ وَقِيلَ لِلنَّاسِ هَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُجْتَمِعُونَ. They gathered them. And then the people of Fir'aun said, you know what? It's not enough for Musa to just do this. Because they really believed that Musa would be defeated in this. They say, you know what we have to do? We have to have people watching. We have to get this message across to people. Yes? وَقِيلَ لِلنَّاسِ هَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُجْتَمِعُونَ لَعَلَّنَا نَتَّبِعُ السَّحَرَةَ إِنْ كَانُوا هُمُ الْغَالِبِينَ. Because we want to walk in the footsteps of the magicians. Because they're going to be victorious anyways. They're going to be able to defeat Musa on this day. The Quran says the Sahara had such a close relationship with who? With Fir'aun. On that day, before the showdown even began, they came to Fir'aun. They said, أَإِنَّ لَنَا لَأَجْرًا إِن كُنَّا نَحْنُ الْغَالِبِينَ. If we're able to defeat him, are we going to get the prizes and are we going to get the connections and the relationships and so on and so forth? He said, absolutely. قَالَ نَعَمْ وَإِنَّكُمْ إِذًا لَمِنَ الْمُقَرَّبِينَ. If you take care of Musa for me, if you take care of his propaganda, you take care of his arguments for me, you will be my right-hand people. You will be heavily rewarded. Yes? When you want to be elected, we'll be there for you. Yes? So what happened? The important thing is, the Quran says, when these magicians came to do their work, even the Quran says that their magic was heavy. Even the Quran says that they did sihrin azim. They really brought their A game. It was such a heavy level of magic. Every time I say magic, you can replace it with media and propaganda, yes? They brought such heavy level of media and propaganda that the Quran says Musa got afraid. Musa got afraid because he didn't believe. No, Musa got afraid that people are going to believe. Musa got afraid because he's like, whoever sees this, of course he's going to believe it. Whoever sees this, of course they're going to fall for it. This was the level of propaganda, the level of magic that they brought. And then the Quran says that when they wanted to start their magic, they said what? وَقَالُوا بِعِزَّةِ فِرْعَوْنَ. By the might of Fir'aun, إِنَّا لَنَحْنُ الْغَالِبُونَ. We're going to defeat Musa today. فَأَلْقَى مُوسَى عَصَاهُ. And then Musa went to grab his staff. The Quran says before he grabbed his staff and he was fearful, قُلْنَا لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْأَعْلَى. We told him, Musa, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid because Musa is a ulul azm prophet. He's not afraid for himself. He's afraid why? For the people. قُلْنَا لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْأَعْلَى. Don't worry. Your argument is a different argument. You don't have, brothers and sisters, you don't have to argue these things anymore. That was when you didn't have the type of coverage you have and so on and so forth, yes? Today, some pictures will do all the talking. Some of the pictures you see coming out of that area will do all the talking that you and I need to do. Doesn't mean we don't have to be educated on the history of that area. Definitely need to be educated on it. But just the power of what's happening is too much. You can use propaganda. There's only to a certain extent you can be able to whitewash things, yes? Wash things away. They said, وَقَالُوا بِعِزَّةِ فِرْعَوْنَ. When they threw their staffs, the Quran said, وَاسْتَرْهَبُوهُمْ وَجَاءُوا. And they brought sihrin azim. They brought this great magic. We told Musa, don't be afraid. Throw your staff. فَأَلْقَى مُوسَى عَصَاهُ فَإِذَا هِيَ تَلْقَفُ مَا يَأْفِكُونَ. He began to eat away those other snakes. فَأُلْقِيَ السَّحَرَةُ سَاجِدِينَ. Now all of a sudden those people who were spreading propaganda, they turned away from Fir'aun. You see, nowadays, this is what's different about this time compared to other times. When I was a kid, no celebrity at any level cared about this issue. No celebrity at any level would sit back and say, maybe there's human beings on the other side. Let me even consider this issue. It wasn't even a thing. Now you find every now and then, some of them, some, small, they come up and they say, no, what's happening here is wrong. I thought this October 7th, I heard about the October 7th. Nobody told me about the 75 years before it, yes? No one told me about all the history and so on and so forth. But then you'll find when people come out, not to support anything, they just come out and say, well, there's civilians on the other side, we should be careful at least. That's like the minimum level that you're supposed to say about this situation. Then you'll see they get shut down as well. Then they lose deals, then they lose ties, they lose money, then their careers are in jeopardy. Why? Because when the magicians of Fir'aun turned around against him, what happened to them? They lost everything. When the magicians of Fir'aun turned against him, فَأُلْقِيَ السَّحَرَةُ سَاجِدِينَ. When the magicians fell down to sajda, قَالُوا آمَنَّا بِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. We now believe in the Lord of the worlds, Rabbi Musa wa Harun. Whoever Musa and Harun is saying is Lord. That's who we believe in. قَالَ آمَنْتُمْ لَهُ قَبْلَ أَنْ آذَنَ لَكُمْ. So I didn't give you permission to believe in anything. I don't know what you're talking about. I did not greenlight you speaking about civilians getting blown to pieces. Who gave you permission to talk about that? Oh, but it's a humanitarian issue. No, I didn't give you permission to talk about it. So now you're going to be punished for it. إِنَّهُ لَكَبِيرَكُمُ الَّذِي عَلَّمَكُمُ السِّحْرَ. You know what? He is the one who's the biggest amongst you. You guys are magicians. He's the biggest magician amongst all of you. And in fact, the magic that you got and what you're saying now, you learned it from him. But wait, we were spreading propaganda for you 2 days ago. No, you've now become self-hating. This is the term that they will use, yes? Oh, I don't agree with this, and actually come from this people. Say, no, you're a self-hating person. You hate your own people. This is why you're speaking out against these atrocities. إِنَّهُ لَكَبِيرَكُمُ الَّذِي عَلَّمَكُمُ السِّحْرَ فَلَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ. So you will know what I'm going to do to you. And what did Fir'aun do? The Quran, of course, tells us that the Fir'aun, he committed an atrocity there, that he cut hands and he cut arms and he cut feet and so on and so forth. And the Quran describes for us a faith from the magicians of Fir'aun that truly I don't know how someone can have this type of faith. But when the Quran says it, that is the reality of the matter. That they said, قَالُوا لَا ذَيْرْ إِنَّا إِلَىٰ رَبِّنَا لَمُنْقَلِبُونَ. We're not worried about what you're going to do because we're returning to our Lord. Who are these magicians of Fir'aun? I don't know. I hope one day in the next world we meet them. Yes. But they had the level of faith that we can only hear of in books. And they turned to Fir'aun, they said, you know what, Fir'aun? You can do whatever you want to do in this world, but that's the extent of your power. When it comes to the next world, the moment I'm dead, you no longer have authority over me. The moment I leave this world, you no longer have authority over me. إِنَّمَا تَقْضِي هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. You can rule over al-hayat ad-dunya. You can rule here, yes? But after that, you are no longer in charge. Who says this? What type of faith is this? This is unbelievable type of faith, yes? But this is what the Quran speaks of. Inshallah, with that, we'll bring this second khutbah to an end. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. Thank you. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. صلى الله عليه وسلم. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. صلى الله عليه وسلم. وأن عليا حجة الله. صلى الله عليه وسلم. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم ارزقنا توفيق الطاعة وبعد المعصية اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم ارزقنا توفيق الطاعة وبعد المعصية اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين واستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم بحق فاطمة وأبيها وباليها وبنيها وسر المستودع فيها. Inshallah, recite Ayat Karima 5 times for all those who are ill and ailing throughout the world and the suffering, especially for the people of Palestine. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات.
I mean, just a quick reminder, Tonight, the Dallas Youth Group is having their Sisters Only Friendsgiving potluck at the DYG Lounge. This is, again, a Sisters Only event for ages 16 through 28. If you are interested, please look for the link to register in the WhatsApp messages that are sent out on the City of Knowledge WhatsApp group. Another reminder, November 23rd, Thursday, we will have the Thanks to Allah annual potluck here at CFK. Again, if you wish to attend, please RSVP using the link in the Sign Up Genius link that is present in our WhatsApp group announcements. Another announcement regarding next week, inshallah, we will be commemorating the first Fatimiyya on November 25th and November 26th with a 2-night program. We are honored to host Sheikh Bilal Hussain for these programs. The programs, inshallah, will begin at 7 p.m. with Salatul Isha and will end with Matamdari and Tabarak to go. As always, event details are present on our WhatsApp group and our email newsletter. You can always visit our website, cfkdfw.org, to sign up to our newsletter and to our WhatsApp group. And Jazakallah to all our sustaining members, donors, volunteers, and program sponsors for your contributions. If you are not a member, please consider becoming one by contacting our membership director, Brother Asif Patel. And for opportunities to donate, sponsor programs, or help behind the scenes, please speak to myself or any of the volunteers. I would like to request everyone to please recite a Surah Fatiha for the marhumin of today's Niyaz sponsors, and let us please also include our own marhumin and the marhumin of the Ummah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأن عليا حجة الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله استغفر الله ربي وأتوب الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم ارزقنا توفيق الطاعة وبعد المعصية. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله. سبحان الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Inshallah, recite dua hiwadat all together. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La ilaha illallah. إلها واحدا ونحن له مسلمون لا إله إلا الله ولا نعبد إلا إياه مخلصين له الدين ولو كره المشركون لا إله إلا الله ربنا ورب آبائنا الأولين لا إله إلا الله وحده وحده أنجز وعدا ونصر عبدا وعز جندا وهزم الأحزاب وحده فله الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت ويميت ويحيي وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، السلام على 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين، السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.